but everything else is some tomatoes are already this view that I'm showing is not is from a couple of years ago, but right here on the right here is or on to
But
some
everything else
right of
is
my image. Some
What?
tomatoes are already they're about that high. View that I'm showing is
Zoom wants to be
That's
up.
early. That's early, man, to have your stuff in the ground already. I mean, that's great. It's only the first day of spring, everyone.
yeah. Well, it's going to be burnt up by the end of by mid-June.
Okay. Yeah, so we don't have that so much out here. We plant and we get to go all the way through till like September, October with our summer stuff. So
Yeah, I wish.
shade cloth, airflow, choosing the shadiest location possible, all that.
Sadly, with the fencing around it, the airflow is a little bit of a problem. But I tried putting some shade cloth and it didn't really help. That's what this big frame is to put some sunscreen over
Yeah,
it.
see that. Hey, Kathleen, we were going to start today with a little question that Kathleen had asked. We might even do that real quick. Let me share my screen and stuff. But before I get into that, happy hour, people.
Woo.
You know, we've survived another. What do we got? What are we drinking over here? So just yeah,
Yeah.
go one at a time. What do you got? What are you drinking?
St.
So-
Laurent.
Okay, I'm doing a June Shine hard kombucha this time. Looks like this. What else? What else we got? Josh, what what is that garnish, Josh?
Well, I was pruning my garden back, getting it all ready, and there's tons of African blue basil and oregano, so I just needed something to stir my drink with. So it's a whiskey ginger with Fever Tree ginger beer, and I've got a big sprig of African blue basil, as you can see here.
That's
Okay.
beautiful.
So
You
it
guys,
smells very good.
for those of you who don't know, whiskey ginger is Josh's call sign as well.
Should be.
Well, I had to do a mocktail because when we're done with this, I got to go pick my husband up at work and I don't want to drive to the winery toasted. So mine it's seedlip spice with lavender simple syrup and ginger beer with a sprig of lavender from my plant.
Nice. Did you say drive to the winery?
Yeah, my husband works at J. Laura Winery like 10 days a month. So I get a lot of wine. So I'll have my wine later.
Yeah, I'll say. Cool.
Yeah, Troy, you need to come over for dinner. Josh was here one time and he had lots of wine with us one night. Or was I not supposed to say that, Josh?
You can say whatever you want. I'm an open book. I don't care.
Yeah, this is the place to be saying it. This is it. This is it for the happy hour. So
Yeah.
don't worry. Please break it out.
That was a great dinner, though. That was really nice. We had some good talks. Got to see some of Chuck's art, which is really cool.
Well, anyway, cheers, y'all. Cheers to making it through another week,
Yes.
L'chaim.
or at least over the hump for another week. All right. We're not out of the woods yet. Personally, this week is going really fast for me. I'm feeling like I don't have enough time to do all the things I need to do before the week is over. Most weeks I'm like, oh, cool. I'm like over the hump. I can kind of chill out and relax. But this week it feels like things are just picking up right now, especially because this is like getting toward planting time too. I have a field to go out and drive a tractor around and disc to get all the weeds out of there. And the farm work right now is really picking up, as well as Start Organics work. We're talking to a couple new corporate clients and we're thinking about starting some gardens up. So that's good news. Questions before we get started? Anything anyone really wants to learn today? Anything that we have questions on our gardens? I know, Kathleen, we have your question on our slides. Yeah, Falana, what's up?
Silly question, and I should know this. We've got some rain in I'm in the Bay Area, South Bay Area, so it's kind of hot, but kind of not. And we're supposed to be getting some rain over the weekend, and temperatures are supposed to dip. Can I get my tomatoes out now?
It should be. We're looking at our 10-day weather forecast, and you're looking at nighttime temperatures. If you're kind of like on a hill, you're surrounded in these hills, so maybe I mean, you're looking at nighttime temperatures. If they're in the 40s, anything above 40 degrees, I wouldn't worry about anything. I could say you could go ahead and plant.
Oh, great. Terrific.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So if you look at your 10-day weather forecast, which is always something that we should have that on speed dial. Should have that on all the hundreds of tabs that we have open on our browsers all the time. One of them should be your current weather. I go to Weather Channel, I type in my zip code, and I see what is my current weather for the next 12. It'll go like 12, almost 14 days. If you don't see anything below 40 for any of those nights, then I wouldn't worry about it.
Oh, terrific. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I actually have
let
a
me-
question.
What was that?
I actually
Oh.
have a question.
Oh, Josh has a question.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
And I should probably know this, but I'm wondering if anyone, because I've never lived in the environment I'm in now, has anyone grown tomatoes year round before and had success?
I've tried in Houston, and I've only had 1 year where it worked. Usually what happens is we do get a bit of frost in December timeframe, and so it's really, really hot in August when you need to put them in. So you gotta keep them covered and watered all the time. And then by the time they're ready to go, I've had lots of production, but then they never get past green and they split because we get a lot of rain in December, and it just never really worked out. I once had a huge Juliet plant, which is like a little plum tomato.
Hmm.
The bush it must have been, you know, 8 to 10 feet in diameter. It was just, hundreds and hundreds of them, but that's all I got. And it went past New Year's, and it finally, and it was time that's when I have to actually start prepping for planting again, is cleaning everything up in Christmas vacation time frame, January or time frame. So in any case, I've tried many, many other times, had lots of fruit, but nothing ever got past green and splitting.
Okay. Because
So
my
that's my
uh
experience.
this is not a virtual background. This is actually my garden back here.
Okay, cool.
And you can see those tomato plants are still going strong. I just wonder if the new flowers and tomatoes are still going to taste as good as they did last year. That's really what I'm wondering, because they're starting to flower and produce already. So we'll see. I guess I'll just leave it. And
I had a couple of cherry tomato plants, both the Sweet 100s and the Sun Golds go into their third year. They're
Whoa.
only really producing, the thing is they're only really producing flowers on all the new growth and stuff, so they get really straggly and big. The first year they're producing flowers and the plant is like a regular size. But then you saw that, I mean, Josh, you've seen that like into the tomato jungle
Yeah.
thing. Those were plants that we could show that video too. That'd be kind of fun. If you could find it. But that we can so those plants produce a second round, like another year. They weren't quite as tasty, as sweet as they were the year before, but they did make it through just because there was like a year, 2 years where we didn't have a frost. We
Mhm.
had that like El Nino years. It was a lot warmer. So they'll make it. I don't know. I don't know if it's really worth it because
Well,
the
look at
cost of a tomato.
yeah. I mean, but can you see that plant back there?
Yeah, they look big.
It's like pretty much filled in the whole tomato cage at this point. So I'll leave it, see what happens.
I have heard of people grafting though. You've seen that, right?
Hmm.
Where they're like, you guys, they'll take like a root stock, they'll take a plant like that, they'll cut that off, and they'll take a newer plant and then graft it on there. And so this plant has this like immense root system already in the ground and ready to go, and it kind of shoots up a lot faster. I've never tried it. I don't think it's necessarily worth it, but
Yeah.
Well, it's worth a try for me. With a tomato or some other
yeah,
vegetable,
with tomatoes.
might be worth a try, especially.
Yeah,
try
yeah.
that.
So like
Yeah.
a graft, you're cutting it you kind of make like a point out of one end and you make like a receptor point on the other, and you kind of tie a little thing around it. And some people swear by it. I've never really tried that. I mean, a new tomato starter plant, even if you're buying them at the retail nursery, is like $4.99 or something, and you're gonna get pounds and pounds of tomatoes on there. So sometimes it's worth just prep the soil, get it all in there, And by the way, if you've done that, if you've let them go all winter long, and that means you didn't grow a winter garden. You know, you didn't have broccoli in there or cauliflower or something else to take that space. So that's up to you. Let me share my screen real quick. And
Joy, did you have a question before we get going? I think your hand was
Oh,
up.
Joy, yeah.
It may be more of a comment than a question, but I put little cages over my potato leaves, plants, because as you may recall, last year something ate all the plants and the actual tops of the potatoes, not tomatoes. And so I saw that they were starting to eat them again this year, so I put cages over them. I came back a little while later. They've dug holes next to the plant that's sticking up and eaten the potatoes underneath the ground. Like, I don't know what it is about my garden. Whatever I grow, somebody else eats. And I'm pretty sure this is a squirrel now, because I've seen him come around and dig in some of the other pots looking for, gee, are there potatoes here too, or something here. But so now I put a cage over the whole pot, and we'll see what happens, whether they're able to squeeze in there or not. But once it's eaten half of the potato, is it still okay to, will that potato plant will still probably grow more potatoes, I'm assuming.
Yeah, even if if there's one eye left on the potato, then that will resprout. You know, you can rebury those, but I mean, we have to, get through the problem first, right? We have to find a solution for them to actually not get in there. It's just really surprising to me that they're eating potato leaves, especially. Potato leaves are not, they're not, by all accounts, they're not supposed to be edible. They're not edible for people. So that's kind of funny that they're actually going after that.
I guess they figured the potatoes better than the leaves, so now they're going after. So they literally ate half of the potato. It was, I took a picture. Maybe I'll show it later.
Nice. I do want to comment and say, so yeah, that's a crazy problem. Hopefully you can find a solution to, get those cages down, buried down in the ground, or do something else to deter those squirrels. But I did want to say a comment. We got, I'm looking for people's gardens in the backgrounds. That was part of the thing. So we got Judy, thank you. Nice. We got a garden in the background there. Glenn, I see your garden in the background. Valana, I don't know where we are there, but it looks like we're in some kind of dense forest of some kind.
Sorry, I didn't know that's what we're supposed to do. Let me dig something up and repost. Give me a second.
Yeah,
How do you do it? I was trying to do it.
Okay, so you got to take a picture of your garden.
Yeah.
And then on the bottom of your screen, so all of us have the same screen going around. On the bottom of the screen, there's a stop video or start video button.
Yep.
There's a little tiny arrow.
Yep.
If you click that arrow, it's going to open up a little area there. You can say choose virtual background. If you click on choose virtual background, it'll open up a whole thing. You'll see yourself. You'll see whatever the digital background is right now, which is nothing, or it says none or blur. What you want to push is there's a little plus button on the right side. It says add image or video. If you do that, then you scroll through the images and videos that are on your computer. You can also take them from your phone and send them to yourself, or just airdrop them to yourself, and you'll see them there in your downloads, and you can choose from your virtual backgrounds. I've got some fun ones. This is another garden setup that we did at another client's house. I got my corporate garden set up. All I have is gardens. That's all I have in here are choices for gardens. And notice how this one is backwards, right? This one's see, there's a button at the bottom that says mirror my video, and I can click that button and it will show up there in the right way. All right, so
actually the right way to begin with.
Yeah. Oh, it was the right way to begin with? Oh, well then I'll unmirror my video. Cool. All right, thanks, Josh. All right, well, yeah, so that's how you add these images. So for everybody who wants to go in there and try to find nice. So Wendy, now we've got some persimmons, looks like drying persimmons, and Joy's in a nice grassy area. She looks like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah, right.
Hey, my dad's in there. All right, cool. Well, Dad, maybe you got to find an image too. We were just explaining how to make your background like into a garden or something. Okay.
Wow.
So let me jump in for no, Josh is floating.
Ooh.
Through the
Josh is
PayPal
floating
garden.
through the PayPal. That's the garden at PayPal, I think.
Yep.
It looks a
Oh,
little
wow.
strange, man. It looks so weird when you're like floating like that. So you can also upload videos and stuff too. Glenn, I like the
I just added
metal.
those two ones, one last year and one this year. The one on the left I just put in last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So for a place like Houston, those metal beds, one thing to look out for is, with the air temperature outside, it does dry out your soil a lot faster. You're going to have to use a lot more water when you have those raised beds made of something that's not quite so insulative, like we have lumber out here,
Well, I went for the lighter colors, but also I've got the drip sprinklers on those as well.
Yeah.
And I think
Right
that's
on.
right.
Wendy, are
Uh,
you drying those persimmons?
Not right now.
Well, that's when Gary, yes, Gary would dried them last, around Christmas time?
Yeah,
Yeah,
November.
around Christmas time. Yeah,
Wow.
he dries the whole persimmon. They're great.
Huh.
Okay. Let me grab my screen, share my screen. First thing we're going to do is answer a question that came through. Hopefully, whoa, whiteboard. What whiteboard? Josh, are you doing a whiteboard over there?
No, that happened to me last presentation I did yesterday with someone. This is a glitch in Zoom.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you able to get to it where you can actually share your screen?
Yeah,
or no?
just try it again and then it'll work.
Okay, well, there it is. Okay, that
Yeah.
you should be able to see it now, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's us and our crew. This picture right here with us on the truck was taken in the garden behind me. That was many years ago. We did that wasn't even a corporate garden. That, believe it or not, you guys, that was a garden that we built for a private person at their home.
Jeez.
That is a home vegetable garden for someone. And they actually hired us to grow the food for them, which was a very short-lived service that Start Organic used to do, because that is a lot of work. People going out to people's houses trying to grow food on a consistent basis was really tough. So that was not something that we offered all that long. But this is when we actually were just finished building that garden, and we took this photo like we're all happy to be done. So yeah, that was us a number of years back. And if you don't know who we are, Josh and Troy, Start Organic, been going at this for 14 years. This is our chance to cheers again. Cheers, everybody, to another happy hour session. We're still stoked on what we're doing, and that's why we're doing these happy hours for everybody. So we wanted to start today with a question. This was Kathleen's question. She's doing some new raised beds for her garden. Maybe Kathleen, you can jump in and kind of clarify some of this stuff, but she has a question for new raised garden beds, and we're talking about irrigation here. How long should the drip line be for a 4x6 and a 4x12? And the drawings are attached. I'm going to actually, I have made that drawing bigger on the next slide. I'll do that. Should I install a drip head of 8 for the lines or 4? That's a great question. We're going to get into irrigation. Irrigation is our topic for today. And when we get into our business time segment, which we're going to get into really soon. So I blew this up so we can all see. I know you didn't know that your handiwork was going to be featured in here, Kathleen, but
It's still a work in progress. I just started laying out by square foot
okay.
where everything's going to go based on sun, companion planting, and then I got to figure out the irrigation. So this class can't come at a better time.
Right. Irrigation. It is a good time for irrigation as we transition. The season's changing again. Happy first day of spring, everyone. Our spring equinox was yesterday at like 8 p.m. So we're barely into spring. We've just crossed over that, where every day is going to be longer, getting into the summer solstice. So it's a really good time to start drawing our plants. We should be thinking about water, because for most of us, the rainy season is over. We're going to get a little bit more in the Bay Area. It looks like hopefully we can plant and then get a couple. That would be great. But after that, we're on our own for water until pretty much until like September or October. We really don't get a lot of like mid-season rain. So not a bad plan. We're not going to go over necessarily. We can bring this up again for next time. Maybe we can, because we're going to talk about planting plans going into our next session. For homework for everybody, let's try to draw our gardens and put those plants in here. If you want to try to send us that information early, we could try to feature you in the next happy hour and talk about your garden and talk about the spacing. The only thing that I saw that I didn't like on this is that your eggplants are too close together. That's the only thing I saw that I would critique you. Eggplant is definitely more than 1 square foot for a plant. Okay. But that's not really, eggplants can get almost as big as your tomato plants, almost 4 square feet by the book. The rest of these pepper plants would be fine. I like the placement of all the other stuff, and it looks great. But the question is not plants. The question was about irrigation. So to answer your question, I kind of wanted to show an image. It's a very granular image that we've got of how we lay out irrigation in these garden beds. This is a 4x8. Okay, you have to look really closely, but I'll just kind of explain how we're doing this. These are 1/4-inch drip lines, and these are laid roughly 6 inches from the edge of the garden bed and roughly 6 inches apart across the whole garden. Now, this is a 1/2-inch line. You can barely see it. There's a 1/2-inch line that's supplying water to this garden. What we're doing here is right here, right where that is connected. So we've poked a hole in the 1/2-inch line, and we've run 1 strand up and back. That's a maximum. We have a maximum distance for this type of line of 19 feet total. If you go over 19 feet with 1/4-inch drip irrigation with 6-inch spacing, you see these little drippers are happening every 6 inches. That's like right where the water's coming out. If you go over 19 feet, you will start to get less and less and less pressure after that distance. In fact, you'll get less pressure across all of them. So what we've done here is we've gone 16 feet because we've gone 8 feet up and 8 feet back. And we've done that 3 times, 8 feet up, 8 feet back. And on the third one, 8 feet up, 8 feet back. And now we have even pressure for all of our drip lines across the entire surface of that garden bed. Notice how we didn't connect them all together on the ends or any of that stuff. When the season is over, we want to pull these irrigation lines out. So it's super easy. We just remove the stakes from the lines and flop them out this direction, right? Because that's where they're all connected. We're going to flop all those lines over here. That will empty out the whole box and make it easy for us to add soil amendments and stuff in there. So Kathleen, for your boxes, if they're 4x6, you can do the same thing here. You can go up and back. Technically, at 6 feet, you could go up, back, and up one more time and still be at 18 feet, which is under our 19-foot limit. So you could do, I would say in that box, you would be totally fine with doing just a 4-port manifold, right? Because then you only have 4 connection points. I'll show you guys what the manifolds and stuff look like there. But for a 12-foot, for a 4x12-foot box, you're really only going up. You can only really go up. You can't go up and back in a 12-foot box because you're going to be at 24 feet on one line. So then for every line going out, you need a separate line. So in a 12-foot box, I would probably put an 8-port manifold, and I would use 5 or 6 of them, with each one having its own line going up the garden.
Any reason why you can't just poke the other end of the length and make a U into the 1/2-inch line?
You could bring this 1/2-inch line, all the way around the box if you wanted, and poke into it a little bit later. You're not going to lose any pressure there. That's fine. This just makes it a lot easier. The reason this looks like this is, we have like imagine a way over here in the corner is where our timer is, and we're bringing the water there. And we're coming in and we're going here. We're going to go across this bed, down, over, and across this bed. And we're just supplying all these beds by one line. So it made it really easy to just poke into there. That's the really cheapy, super easy way of doing this. You could, run this 1/2-inch line. It doesn't matter if you run it all the way around the box. You still have to poke into it, and you still have to have.
What I meant was on the 1/4-inch, like 19 or say 20-foot line. have it come out as it is, but take the other end and don't cap it, put a little spear on it and poke it back into the 1/2 inch line. So you're basically feeding it from both ends.
You can do that.
Done that.
So yeah, if you had a 12-foot box and you wanted to connect both ends, the reason we don't do that, the reason we haven't been doing that is, and that's not a problem if it's all on one end. You want to be able to remove those lines out of the box at the end of the season.
Yeah.
It's super easy when there's only one point of connection.
Yeah.
If there's a U, they still flop out of there. It can be a little tricky, because it'll flop, it'll hang up in the air and be weird. If you have only one point of connection, it makes it really easy to flop them out of the box at the end. But that's not a bad idea. You can do that.
So Troy, I think when I switched to drip last year after, doing your classes, I poked them in the ends and just did the whole thing, which they're too long. But the way my garden boxes are is when they redid the landscape in the front, they brought them underneath. So they come up through the box.
Uh-huh.
So I think what I need to do, because they're not a nice straight like you have there on the end, for me to poke in all around. So I think what I have to do is, when I get the sprinkler guy back out here, is to have him come up and then put the, what do you call that on the top?
It's a manifold, 4-port manifold. But you don't have to do that either. I'm going to show you when we get into
okay.
I'm going to dive in here and do business time. It's probably a good idea to do that. And we're going to just show you, how irrigation can look. There's a lot of ways that this can look. In my garden here at home, I have a very, very simple setup, and I just ran that 1/2-inch tube. It does pop under the bed and it just pops straight up in the air. Right. And then you can just poke right into the sides of it as it's sticking up in the air, and it still will be running flat. So I'll show you there. Okay. There's a video that I'm going to show here today. But so that I just went, we showed this in these slides, and we answered Kathleen's question because we want your questions. We want you to send us things, and if for the next session, please draw your garden out, show us what you're planning on planting. We can critique those in front of everyone, okay, and really make it super embarrassing for you, but you will learn, okay. But that is the cost of admittance here is we get to see what you've drawn. Ideally, what we want to see, this is a great drawing because it is to scale. So she's showing us that a foot is this big. She's got 4 feet by 6 feet. That's great. I want to see scale. What I also really want to see always is an arrow pointing north. I want to know which direction is south for your garden, because that will determine a little bit of where we place plants in relation to each other. So those are the only 2 stipulations. Show me a scaled drawing. I like to use like graph paper. Right? We have this handy Start Organic graph paper, which is pretty sweet. And then show me a direction. If you're not sure about your garden's orientation, then look on Google Maps. Just type in your address to Google Maps. The top of the screen will always be north. So then you can orient where that garden is and which direction it's facing. We're looking for good south-facing gardens. Okay. So I think without further ado, I think it might be time for some business. Okay. This is the part of the show where we have a very short dance party. Okay.
It's business time. You know when I'm down to my socks, it's time for business. That's why they call business. It's business. It's business time. Yeah.
All right. And our session today is irrigation. Okay. I don't know how long I have to let this play before I can change it. I just made it in the last minute, so bear with me. You hear the whole song? Yeah, I don't know. All right, so for all of our Alanis Morissette fans, there you go. There's a little, it's like rain, kind of. Okay, so irrigation. This is the most important slide I will wager to say that Start Organic has ever made. Okay, this is a 1-slide show for how we are changing our watering for our garden throughout the entirety of a 6-month season. Okay, we're gonna pretend that our 6-month season is 4 shorter seasons of 6 weeks. Okay, we're looking at planting day, which some of us has already started. Glenn's already planted a few things. I haven't planted anything, but I'm gonna be redoing my garden this weekend and starting to plant things as soon as next week. But planting day is like high noon for this planting clock or watering clock that we have here. So we're thinking going clockwise around in this circle here. Planting day is from the very, very beginning of our gardens. We're going to plant that garden, and for the first 6-week period, we are going to shallow water our garden just about every day. We're watering a very small amount. So if I did set up that automatic irrigation system, I'm using those drip lines that we're going to be talking about in a little bit. I'm probably going to have my system set for between 5 and 10 minutes every morning at 5 a.m. That's what I want to water. I'm going to be seeding my garden. My seeds have 0 root structure. My starter plants are probably rooted maybe this deep, maybe 3 inches deep if you're getting like they're called a 4-inch cup. I have no idea why the industry is calling them 4-inch pots, but they're never 4 inches. That's like a trick somehow. But you have almost no root structure, which means you need to provide water to the top surface of your garden on a regular basis. Then, as plants are getting bigger, right, after 6 weeks, you should see a lot of signs of growth. The plants are getting a little bit bigger. Their root zones are getting a little bit bigger. We're going to change our watering to be deeper watering, which means more time. So probably 20 minutes for every 3 days-ish. We want to give our plants a chance to dry out in between waterings. We are promoting bigger and deeper roots. If I water deeply and then I turn the water off for a few days, those roots are forced to literally chase the water down and out, looking for more nutrients, right? So we are building bigger roots by changing our watering. As our harvests begin around 12 weeks, our heavier harvests, right? We're getting like actual tomatoes and stuff, maybe by that point. We're going to do a deeper watering. Think like 40 minutes once a week. Even deeper. We're helping our plants look deeper and wider by forcing them to chase that last watering that we did a few days ago, a week ago, right? And then by the end, when our plants are fully mature, we are going to water almost none. We're going to turn the water slowly down. We're not going to turn it all the way off. We're just going to slowly dial it back a little bit to make our food taste better. Okay, so that is the game. This is the most important slide that Start Organic has ever made. Okay, and we've shown a lot of different versions of this. We're probably going to talk about this a lot more as the season goes on. We'll be reminding you to be changing your watering structure, but your watering timing. But this is super important, so take a screenshot or whatever. Remember this, okay? As we plant, we're going very shallow for the first few days. Watering styles. If you are hand watering, yeah, it doesn't cost you much. It does require a daily commitment, especially for those first 6 weeks, right? Just as you're going, we were like, why would I really do an irrigation system? I do an irrigation system because I love vacations. I feel like Josh and I are like, partially we're like vacation experts, like we're like, well, maybe I'm more of a vacation expert than Josh is at this point, but I like vacations and I want to be able to leave my garden. So I'm setting up this system. I'm also watering really efficiently because I'm watering to the roots of my plants, like right exactly where they need it. I'm watering in the early morning. I don't know about getting up at 5 a.m. to water. I really don't want to do that. It's a good idea to do it, but I don't want to. So I'm doing that with a system to do that instead. And then I'm watering to the roots, and I'm not watering to the leaves of my plants. Okay, basic irrigation system parts. This is what I'm going to talk about. I have a little video to show you. That's a little bit, it's just a nice like easy run through of like installing one of these systems. But these are the basic parts for a system that any one of us can do on our own over a weekend for our gardens. It does not have to look super fancy. This one's nice and clean because, these things have I put like little corners on them to go down, and this goes underground and back up and over, and then underground and back up and over. So you don't see them or trip on them, but really you're just getting water to your garden and you're distributing it right on the surface of the garden bed in this kind of way. So these are the components that you're going to be looking for. This is a very simple hose outlet. You got to get from your hose to your polytube. So you need one of these kind of coupler things that screws on the bottom and pushes into this stuff. And then you can just poke holes and connect them in here. And you're kind of done. Like there's not that much more to it. So check out this quick video. Try to walk you through the process.
Hey, to round off the irrigation chapter, I want to show you guys a live example of what a temporary irrigation system looks like and how it works. So if you zoom in over here, you can take a look. This is our very simple timer. It attaches to a regular hose outlet. A lot of times we will install one of these splitters. Make sure you use this Teflon tape to get a solid seal so you don't have any leaks. But if you put a splitter right here, you can put the timer off one side, you can run your regular hose off the other side, and you'll control your regular hose with these little valves on here. But that makes it so that this is a irrigation setup that goes to the garden. So this is my timer. I'm going to go ahead and do a manual. See this little manual button? I'm going to do a manual watering so we can see how it works. I'll turn it on for 10 minutes. The outside of this valve set right here, this hose goes over to the garden. You can also run your poly tube like we were talking about, that black hose, or if you want to go a little bit more permanent setup, you're going to run PVC underground and you're going to go to your garden location. So follow me over to the garden where we'll see where this hose picks up. All right, now we're in the garden. This is the hose that was coming directly off of our timer. I've converted it to this poly tube, that black tube that we talked about earlier on in the modules. This black tube then goes very slightly underground and pops up in each of these garden boxes. This is the same tube. It just comes under here and tees off and comes up in each box.
Kathleen, that's what I was talking about. It's just stuck up out of the ground.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Stuck up
I
out of
got
the
mine
ground,
like that. Okay.
And then you can see that line, and it's kind of weird to look at, but you can see it's just teed into the side of it. And so then they come out flat. There's nothing too fancy about it. It comes up, and I put a little bend in the line and then a little cap on it. And now you don't need a 4-port manifold for each of these things, really. It's just very, very simple. Let me finish this up and we'll take more questions.
Great.
You can also run, just so you know, you guys can also run the underground PVC, same materials. Pop this riser up. One riser per box would stick up, and you'd have one of these 4-port manifolds where you would connect your 1/4-inch drip. Follow me. Let's go into one of these boxes and I'll show you the system as it works. Let's stop on this one right here. So we've got our riser right here, right? And this could be this riser, or it happened to be a really, really simple system that I did here, one of my temporary setups. This is my 1/4-inch drip line. Notice that there are, every 6 inches, there is a drip coming out, okay? I've also spaced these out about 6 inches apart, right? So ultimately, when this bed waters, the drip from this will connect with the drip with that, with the drip with this, and we get a blanket of water to the entire garden. This is how you efficiently water an organic vegetable garden using very simple materials. And this whole setup was under $100. So this is pretty easy, and this is something you can do at home on your own. Okay, so now that our garden's irrigated, we're ready to plant.
All right. So that is the basic setup for irrigation that any one of us can do. You can go and do a little bit more. I mean, now the Wi-Fi systems and stuff are out there. You can connect things to Wi-Fi. I actually really dislike the one that I use as an example here. This Beehive one is it's really all about the app that you're using. This app is not easy to use, but at $48 to have a system that you could leave town and change the controller even though when you're not home, that could have worked. I went and looked up another one. This one I just looked up online. This is a smart hose timer. This one's $100. You can get this little hockey puck. It controls up to 4 of these on one system. I like the brand Rakio a lot more than some of these other brands. They seem to have better apps for you to use. You don't have to go that fancy. The one I showed you in those videos, I happen to still be using. This is many years later. All I've done is put 2 AA batteries in it every 2 years, and the thing's still working just fine. And that was $39.99 at Home Depot. You don't have to have them connected to Wi-Fi and checking your local weather patterns and all this stuff. Just have it there for when you know that you're going to need it through the summer season. Turn it off in the winter. And then, I think we already kind of showed this one, but oh no, we didn't. So if you're doing an indoor garden and you have a few plants, hand watering is fine. If you have a few containers, like 10 containers on your patio, hand watering is fine. If you've got 50 different containers and you're really wanting to, oh, thanks, Josh. Thanks. Josh says I'm going too long. All right, I'm out of here. I'm getting out of here. Pro irrigation system, because he's put a timer on. He should have put a timer on in the beginning, but now he's cutting me off, you guys. Pro irrigation system, really the only difference between when we install beds for like Apple's corporate vegetable garden is how we distribute it. We will do these valves underground. We'll run PVC underground and we'll stick them up in each raised bed, but we're still using that 1/4-inch drip. That is the stuff. We've been doing this for 14 years. We still have drip lines, I guarantee it, in gardens that have been working from day one with the same 1/4-inch drip system. So there's very little, sometimes they get calcified and plug up, but for the most part, these are the components that you would need to know. This is what that manifold looks like. That was Kathleen's question in the beginning. Should I use a 4-port or an 8-port manifold? That is a 4-port manifold. But again, you can just poke holes, This is the part that you really need to know, and I'll end it here. Small plants need small amounts of water. Young plants need a small amount of water more often. As plants mature, they need more water less often. You want to avoid soaking or flooding unless you're having ant problems. Then you might want to soak or flood your garden out too. Avoid super long dry periods. Some drying out is necessary for the garden, but if you go really dry, the plants are going to go into some shocks, and otherwise you're going to be just fine. Okay, I'm going to cut it there. I think I don't have anything. Reminder, don't go buy plants is the last thing I'll say. Don't go buy plants until your irrigation system is all set up and your soils are done. Don't go buy plants yet. Make sure you do your diligence to do that beforehand. Okay. All right, Josh, thank you. You could kill my timer, please. All right. I don't want to be timed on this. But yeah, so anyway, I would love to see, I'm starting to see more people's backgrounds. I'd love to see that too. So irrigation questions. Irrigation, how are we watering? What's, I'm just curious to see like a response to what I've put out there.
I just didn't hear the second one. I know I've heard this a million times from you guys. I know you said 5 or 10 minutes on the 0 to 6 weeks on the daily drip, but on the 6 to 12 weeks, every 2 to 3 days deeper, how long do you run the drip for approximately?
Those questions are like, it has to do with a little bit of your soil composition. So if you have like a lot more clay content, you don't have to water as much because it holds moisture. So I would say as a general, we go, I go from every day to like every 3rd day usually. And I would go every 3rd day for 20 to 25 minutes.
Okay. And then the 40 minutes was the once a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just about. And you're watching that, you got to watch your plants too. Whenever you make any of these changes, you make a change and you go 3 days, and on the 2nd day you go out there, take a look at your plants in the late afternoon after maybe a big heat hit them. If they're really droopy, you put your finger in the ground. If you put your finger in the ground next to one of those plants and you're feeling 3 inches down, if you feel it's totally dry down there, you probably need to turn up that system.
Okay.
Right. So you're feeling down in the root zone, in that 3 inches, 4 inches down, you're seeing, is it dry down there? And if it's dry down there, then you water again. These are like very general, we're like saying very rigid, like, oh, you go 1 day for 5 minutes and you go 3 days. It's not quite like that. You play games with the moisture in your soil by feeling the soil and looking at the leaves of your plants. If they're getting really sad, then maybe you give them a little extra water. You don't really want them to go through any bad shock periods in the beginning of their process, or else they will not produce for you nearly as much in the later part of the season.
Okay. Thank you, Troy.
Yeah. Any other questions when it comes to irrigation? Because this is we didn't even talk about some of the little components, things that you need to buy. I know there's little connectors and little goof plugs and stuff you need to do, but in general, I mean, you should be able to install this stuff with like a set of scissors. You get a set of scissors to cut the 1/4-inch lines, maybe the 1/2-inch lines, and you're talking about a weekend project that's going to save you tons of time, energy.
If I could have done it by myself last year, anybody can do it because I didn't know what I was doing. I was texting Josh constantly. What's this thing go into here? So
Nice. Wow, look at that garden area, Constance. Holy cow.
That looks awesome.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So how do you keep dirt from getting into the 1/4-inch tubing?
There should be no way for that dirt to get in there. You're connecting it on one side to a water source, and the other side has a plug at the end. So the stuff is laying there, and it has little drip emitters, but they're like kind of one-way emitters, and nothing should be able to get inside the lines.
I just haven't had as good a luck as you have in those drip lines. A lot of them don't work after a year or two.
You're
So
you're using the same ones, the ones with the actual drip emitters, not soaker hose. Soaker hose
yeah,
tries to like cry out of it all the way along the hose.
no, I'm using the emitters just like your picture there.
Okay.
But they just plug up, and so I'm pulling them all out this year and going to start fresh. So I was hoping you had some suggestions.
We've also noticed that once in a while, and we would just replace like the actual, if there was one that's clogged, you don't have to replace the entire line. You can just replace that one. You know what I mean? If all of them are clogged, then you can replace the whole line. But if there's only one or two that are, you can just replace like a foot of drip in that spot, and then you don't have to replace the entire line.
Is there a better quality line than does it depend on where you buy it?
Not really. The issues that we face is the people that are having to replace them more often. A lot of times you'll have very hard water. You'll have like a lot of calcium in your water. Have you found that just in general? Like if you have, does your house like need a water softener?
I do have hard water, yeah.
Okay, so that is the problem, is you're getting like calcium deposits that are sort of clogging up each of those lines, and it will be only a year or 2 years sometimes, depending on that water system. If you have a water softener for the house,
no,
because a lot of times, sometimes people have a water softener. This is kind of old school. They had them in the garage, like a big old tank that like softens the water. But that usually wasn't connected to your outdoor system. So your outdoor system still has to deal with all that stuff. I would still use that. I would still use those same ones if you're really, again, a whole roll of that stuff, a 50-foot roll or a 100-foot roll of that stuff is like, it used to be $9.99 when we were buying it back in the day. Now it's more than double that, I think. But it's still, it's still a $25 investment that should get you at least 2 years of watering. So replacing the ones that aren't working is not that big a deal. Again, you can use a set of household scissors, cut them, tee into where that other one was, and just extend that line, and you should be off and running. I know it's not the greatest solution. Just keep replacing plastic, but for a 2 year investment, or even one, if I got through a season of not having to hand water my garden, I'd be pretty stoked for $25.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm with Pat. I know, Pat, you don't live very far from me, and I have the same problem. I've just not had any luck at all with the drippers. So I ran an experiment last year where I've got some ribbon so they don't have actually drippers attached. So it's just ribbon with holes in it. And that seems to be working a lot better. But I think Troy's right. Just replace it every couple of years.
Never
Um,
heard of ribbon.
It's like it's like a hose, but it's flat. And then it's just, every 6 to 12 inches, there's a hole.
Oh, okay.
You could
It's-
also consider they have inline filters. It looks like it's about, I don't know, 10, 12 inches long. It looks like a tube of cookie dough that has an inlet for one side and then an outlet on the other side. And it's an inline thing. So you attach your hose to it, and then the other side maybe gets that half-inch line. That may catch a bunch of the calcium stuff and protect the other lines, but I have no idea how much those are and how often you would need to replace those things. So you're still going to be gunking up or whatever that little inline filter is. But we have used those in situations where the client will say, I want to try to filter the water going into the garden for one reason or another. You can get those. Maybe I can try to find one online as we keep the conversation going and just show you what they kind of look like and see if you want to do that.
Pat, are your lines on top of the soil, or are they getting buried into the soil?
Well, I tried to keep them on top, but sometimes they go down in, and then I pull them out. Like I put those little metal things to hold them in
Yeah.
place. But sometimes dirt gets over them.
So then those water's coming out at all then.
Right.
Well, I have
Okay.
hard water here. I have a water softener like Troy talked about. It's in my basement, but it doesn't go to outside. So my problem last year is I think my hoses were just too long, so the pressure wasn't going through. So we'll see how it does this year. Oh,
Can we
that
all
looks
see that?
cool.
Can we all see that thing?
Yeah.
Inline water filter with a little, I mean, it has this flexible hose protector, but it's basically just has an end on this side, an end on the other side, and it takes sediment, carbon, chlorine, heavy metals out of your water. $39. I don't know. Maybe that buys you, maybe that, brings it to the level where I don't know, probably say how many gallons it goes through before it's no good anymore and you got to replace the filter again. $39. Maybe that gets you to a point where you don't have to replace those lines again.
Don't some water filters or water softeners, oh, that's a water filter. Never mind. I was thinking water softeners because don't they use salts to remove hard water?
That would not be good. We don't want to add salts to our waters for sure. So I don't know. This is kind of an option. I mean, one of them's $39. Again, $39, you can get all those hoses again. And if you're gonna be flopping them out of the box to do your soil amendments and then putting them back, it's not that hard to just cut them off. Maybe we can make art out of them or something, so we're not just wasting the plastic lines. We can do some kind of cool, like, I don't know, sculpture, like a plant sculpture out of the old irrigation parts. But it's just an idea, something to think about. Yeah, that's too bad when you have hard water like that. I've only experienced it at like maybe 5% or less of our clients' houses. And then usually we're there to do other work and they're like, hey, these aren't working. We'll do a systems check and we'll realize, yeah, some of them aren't going. So we'll figure out which ones they are and we'll just replace a section of like 8-foot section of line and call it a day,
And just before we end, I just want to make sure people saw that the happy hour #2 recording is in the chat in case anybody wanted to watch it or missed it.
Nice. Yeah, grab those for now. We still haven't really decided how we're gonna be doing this and stuff. So I'd be curious. Actually, I didn't even realize we're experimenting with this whole thing. We're gonna we're going live on YouTube. We're gonna go live on like Instagram and see who's interested on these things just on a regular basis. But we really do appreciate the input. So please get your gardens in the background. Get pictures of your garden or the space that you're thinking of growing in the background. Send your questions, please. We have an email that goes to both of us. I can put it in here. Founders, actually, just do your questions through the Start Organic Gardening group. That's where we want to see questions, because then other people can give answers. Some of the best questions will feature in here. For our next session, draw your garden in a scale and show me what you're going to plant this year. Show Josh and I where you're going to plant. We're going to be talking about different planting layouts for our next happy hour. One week from today, same time. We're going to try to keep sending out those notices a little bit earlier. It's just hard because we get into doing work and then we're like, oh crap, we didn't promote the happy hour. Okay, here it is, 24 hours in advance. So try to join us.
This was great. Thank you.
Right? Yeah.
Right
Thanks
on.
so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for joining.
Again, Falana.
All right, y'all.
Thank you.
All
See you
right,
next
have a good
time.
week.
Thank you. Oh, no.